All right, it looks like we got about 37, 38, 39 folks in here. I recognize some names from a bunch of different areas at the college, representing a bunch of different divisions. So we are so excited for a fantastic conversation. It's 3:12. We got a lot to do, so we will go ahead and get jumping into this thing. So for our introduction, again, what we want to encourage you all to do as our audience is we want to continue to have you all type into the chat your name, your title or position at PGCC, and one thing you are looking to learn during this session. We are thrilled to be coming to you for this session with 2 staff presenters and 3 student presenters who are going to really invigorate you all. We know it's the end of the day, so we're hoping for a really fantastic session and a really interactive session as well. Dr. Smith, if you want to introduce yourself, and then I'll introduce myself before we get to some of our students.
Absolutely, Matt. Thank you so much, and good afternoon, everybody. We hope to keep the momentum going. I know it's 3 o'clock and we're about to finish up our wonderful professional development day all day. I hope you had a wonderful sessions. We are excited to come with you with our session today. And again, my name is Rosa Smith. I work over at the University Town Center location. I am the program director of student services over there. And I'm just so happy that you are able to attend this session.
All right, and we have 3 students. We'll start with Andres, we'll go to Elizabeth, and then William. If you 3 want to give just a very brief name, major, what year you are at the college, and then any affiliations you have at the college, scholarships you have, programs you're involved in, anything like that. So we'll go Andres first.
Hello, everyone. My name is Andres Fernandez, as Matt said it. It is my first year in college, and well, my second year in college. I have a scholarship named the All Scholarship. I I participate in a DMSI program at this college, and yeah, that's pretty much it.
Elizabeth, go ahead next.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Elizabeth Adejamal. My intended major is nursing. I am a first-year college, but I have taken some dual enrollment classes before, and I am also in the dual to degree scholarship program.
All right, and William, go ahead, wrap us up.
Hello, my name is William Mora Franco. I am a business administration major, and I am also in the OWL scholarship.
All right, thank you to you all. Very quickly before we get into the meat of our presentation, one of the things we do invite you all to do, if you are viewing this on a computer, we do invite you to open this presentation in what they call gallery view on your Zoom. That way you are actually able to view the presentation and our panel of staff and students side by side. So we definitely invite you to do that. If you're on your phone, you also are able to swipe left with your finger to view not only the presentation, but again, also our staff and student panel as we're going to be going through these slides. We are going to accomplish, we wish we could accomplish a whole host of things, but what we're going to try to narrow down in our session today is we want to learn the context around and the data about undocumented students. We want to hear directly from students about their experiences. And again, we are so lucky to have 3 students join us here today. And we want to reflect on how each of us in our specific divisions can best support undocumented students at PGCC. If we wanted to, not we, but if you are interested, there is so much rich information around what being undocumented might mean in the grander scheme of things, but we definitely want to ensure that we are speaking about what we know and that we are encouraging our students to speak about their experience. So this session is not necessarily going to be a comprehensive overview of U.S. immigration policy, for example, although it definitely, you may ask certain questions and you may reflect on certain things that are involved around that. But again, we want to make sure that we are highlighting our students and we are focusing this session specifically on what that means for Prince George's Community College. So with those objectives and that note, I will let Dr. Smith take it away.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Matt. And again, I really want to commend all of our students who are participating today in this session. I am going to provide you with setting the context, setting some definitions, and just really at the basic, very superficial level, just talk about some terminology to get us going with our presentation. So I'm going to get started. Undocumented refers to people who are not U.S. citizens or permanent residents of the United States, who do not hold a current visa to reside in the U.S. and who have not been approved residency in the U.S. And at the end of the presentation, if you feel, if you would like for us to send you this, we have the documentation and the footnotes, as you can see, the very first footnote here. The term is widely used and accepted when talking about students. Immigrant, undocumented or immigrant are not interchangeable. While immigrant may accurately describe many of our students, undocumented more appropriately captures the context and the situations of those students who are undocumented, as we defined above. Continuing with the definitions, DACA refers to Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. This program that protects eligible applicants from deportation and gives them work authorization for a renewal of 2 years. DACA provides lawful presence, but not lawful status. I want to repeat that just a little bit so we can sink into that a little bit. DACA does provide lawful presence, but just not lawful status. In some states, DACA eligible youth can receive additional benefits. Dreamer, very, very popular term and very, very dear to Maryland. Term used to refer to undocumented youth who have been granted lawful presence through DACA or through the Maryland DREAM Act. Can also be used the term DACA meant. All right, Matt, thank you for the next slide. Illegal immigrant, undocumented students who are not, who are not committing a crime by simply existing as undocumented. It is important to remember that we do not want to imply in any way that our hard work as Prince George's Community College students are illegal because of their status. Alien, also an example, undocumented alien. While this term may be found in certain government documents, like alien resident number, we do not want to refer to students as alien, as this is considered unwelcoming. All right. Those are the terms that we are going to be using as we have our discussion today and continue to talk about how we can support our students today. At this time, I'm going to take just a few moments to ask our students, is there anything that they would like to share before Matt comes on and he'll present some data about DACA, dreamers, and undocumented students.
Yeah, so just so all of our audience members knows, Elizabeth, Andres, and William actually did help create some of these focuses for our presentation and helped us as we figured out what is best to share with you all and the language that undocumented students prefer when we as a college think about how to support students. This was some of the things that they did come up with. So I'm sure that it's being a little bit bashful. But Andres and Elizabeth and William, before we move on, do you all have any reactions to any of these terms or any things that you want to underscore from what Dr. Smith just said?
No, she pretty much said everything.
Yeah, I believe it's very clear.
All right, sounds good. Sounds good. Thanks both. Well, now we have some common language for our discussion today, what we want to say, terms we don't necessarily want to use or say. I think it is important now that we contextualize ourselves in who are our undocumented students and who are undocumented students in college overall. So the US has around 40 or so, 45 million people who were not born in the US, who were foreign born. Almost 1/4 of those people are undocumented. So when we think about the terms immigrant and undocumented, again, this goes back to Dr. Smith's point that sometimes those terms go hand in hand. Sometimes they don't. We have a huge number of foreign-born people that may actually identify more with the term undocumented than with the term immigrant based on not only where they were born, but how long they have been living their lives in the United States. Out of that 10.5 million number, there are more than 450,000 undocumented students that currently are in college. That data is as of 2018, I believe. This means a couple things. First of all, it means that 1 in every 50 college students is undocumented nationally. We'll get into some Maryland state level data on the next slide. And that also means that 1 in every 25 undocumented people is in college. So getting an education is a humongous cornerstone value for many people in this country, but specifically for people and immigrants who are undocumented. A couple data from Maryland State overall, and that further helps us think about college students who are undocumented. Maryland, the state, has 16,000 undocumented college students. That ranks 7th for an amount throughout the entire nation. So 16,000 college students is 3% of the Maryland college students, and that is the same rate as California and Florida. So when we talk about the state of Maryland and the context with which PGCC resides, we are seeing undocumented students, whether we know it or not, in our classroom, through our hallways, at the front door of the institution, all the way to the graduation stage. So again, it is incredibly important that we think about how we best serve and support this population. When we think about the focus of this event, specifically around embracing inclusion and striving for equity really is making sure those marginalized voices and perspectives are at the center of our decision making, and that we see and hear voices of those students represented all throughout this college. So we definitely wanted to make sure to know that there are so many undocumented students persisting through college nationally, but also here at this state and this institution. One thing to note is undocumented students are incredibly diverse. There are a majority of undocumented immigrants who have a specific race or ethnicity, more specifically Latinx. However, when we look at college students overall, our undocumented college students are Latinx, they are Asian American, Pacific Islander, they are Black, they are white, they are every race and ethnicity imaginable. Undocumented does not mean one race ethnicity over another. It purely means, as Dr. Smith said at the beginning, that designation in the status. And one other thing to learn or to know about undocumented students is that not all undocumented students know that they are undocumented for all of their life. In one study, it was actually 59% of undocumented student college goers who found out for the very first time that they were undocumented when applying to college or when seeking financial aid. So oftentimes we at Prince George's Community College, by the time that they come to our door, most students obviously will know their status, but some students, again, may have known that for many years, and some it may be more of a recent knowledge. And then the very last piece of data, again, before we get into our what our students recommend our staff and our faculty to do, we did want to point out some large trends around the barriers of undocumented students nationally. We chose not to focus so much of this presentation on the barriers. If you are more interested in that conversation, and if you are looking to get some resources to do your own research on that, we can provide numerous resources, and we have a slide on the last page that shares some of our resources. But overall, these three sort of main themes emerge in the literature and in national reports. Undocumented students do have a barrier when it comes to college affordability and personal family finances. We as Maryland are fortunate to live in a state where undocumented students do qualify for in-state tuition. That doesn't necessarily mean that undocumented students qualify for every single scholarship, every single grant, everything like that. We do have the state of Maryland providing some college affordability in that way, but overall and nationally, college affordability is a large issue for undocumented students. There are even entire states that ban undocumented students from attending their institutions. But so that college affordability is one piece. The next piece that is emergent in the literature and across national reports is unclear and unstable policies. That happens at the national level, the state level, the institutional level. There are always policies that are changing, that are hidden, that are in some way, shape, or form not expressed to our students and their families and their communities in the way that we need to do that justice. And then the last thing before we dive into our students, there is among the undocumented community a concern for personal family safety, mental and physical health, that I would offer is sometimes the result of those unclear and unstable policies, and how different entities may either act on or perpetrate different acts unto the undocumented population by no fault of their own. So again, before we get into the next slide, the next two slides, I should say, are going to highlight our students specifically and some offerings for what they have, for what our staff and faculty should do, shouldn't do. Before we get into that, Andres, William, Elizabeth, do you have any reflections on the last couple slides around the data or anything to share before we dive in?
Yes, actually, about the unclear and unstable policies, that is really a big issue because some of these, from my personal experience, I attended a college fair, and I was at the table for one of the colleges, and I gave him my information. And it's always good to let the colleges know about your status, to ask if there are any issues around you attending the college. So I did let him know that I was undocumented, and his reaction was not good. So I did apply, and we went through the whole process, but I didn't get a word back. But my problem was that the state didn't have any policies banning undocumented students, but the colleges didn't seem to be welcoming to undocumented students, but that wasn't clear on their website. So policies like that really make it difficult for undocumented students to attend colleges because they're not clear.
I appreciate
Thank you,
that,
Elizabeth.
Thank
That was really awesome. Matt, you were going to say something.
I was just going to go into our next slide unless you have something right before.
Yeah, I wanted to add to that, Matt, as we want to, again, focus on this being a dialogue discussion and getting us warmed up for that discussion. I want to add on the concern for personal family safety, mental and physical health. I want to throw in the word fear. And fear, it's been a word that was used in the openings this morning during our opening statements in how we deal with fear. But fear of the unknown and the unclear is also one of the things that has definitely presented a challenge. I happen to have the pleasure of working with a lot of undocumented students, DACA and Dreamers, and over at the University Town Center. And those conversations are, during this particular moment in time, are very difficult to have. So as we continue the dialogue, just wanting to really talk about that. Go ahead, Matt.
Awesome. And so speaking of dialogue, we are going to kick it off to our students on the very next slide. William, Elizabeth, and Andres actually got together with Dr. Smith and myself to to figure out sort of when you as staff and faculty are thinking about takeaways, thinking about ways to orient your work to create those spaces for undocumented students and to best support them. We have three, on the next two slides, we have 3 do's and 3 don'ts that can act as your takeaways for these sessions. I will go ahead and advance the slide, and I think that William is going to start us off.
Yeah, so the first do is identify scholarship opportunities for undocumented students and advertise more scholarships that are inclusive of undocumented students. So as you guys may all know, many scholarships require legal status, and there's many people like myself that don't have it. So from personal experience, when I was a senior in high school, I was trying to look for as much scholarships as possible, but I didn't qualify for much due to my status. Um, Another example is, as you guys may know, a lot of high schools tend to have FAFSA night, but some students are not eligible for FAFSA. So I feel like it will be more recommendable if they also include MISFA, which is a term that kids that are undocumented because they can't use FAFSA. So yeah, that's it.
Elizabeth, go ahead.
Okay. Okay. Do you make the connection from study to career? So a lot of programs or majors at colleges, they do require students to get to take like an exam to pass to get a license in order to be able to practice. But obviously undocumented and DACA students cannot take these exams because they don't have a social security number, so they can't take the exam and sit for it. So these students need to know about these majors that they cannot be part of because they can't practice. So it will be good to let them know when they're making these decisions. So let them know you can't, like, just like give them an advice. It will be very welcome. It will be very good to know that. It will be very good to know for them to know before enrolling in a particular major that will not be useful to them after they're done with it. So yeah.
And Andres, you're up next.
I believe in a way supporting undocumented students are creating a genuine relationship and welcoming environment. As a first member of my family to attend the college, I did not know that how college system worked. I did not know where to start in the process of the admission. The first day that I decided to ask for admission information, I was lucky to find myself with Dr. Smith. I'm sorry, Mrs. Smith. She was the one who helped me guide me through the process of admission, and she created like a friendly environment with me. She provided me the resources I needed. For example, like the scholarship, like our scholarship, she was the one who mentioned that to me. Also, I believe this is important thing to do college, like creating a genuine environment, because that actually makes students to go to that actually encourages students to go further in their college journey.
All right, thank you, Andres. And I know that all of us at Prince George's Community College have a role to play in that. I know we have some of our fantastic recruitment staff on the call today, and it's everyone from the front door into every single classroom, into every single office and activity that really do have a large part to play in creating that welcoming environment and striving for those genuine relationships to the extent possible. Before we go on to the next slide, Andres, William, and Elizabeth, I know you all shared a little bit about your own stories right there. Did you have any other reactions to anything that either of the other 2 bullets before we move on?
Well, in my experience with the first bullet, identifying opportunities for undocumented students, in my experience, I experienced like it was a little trouble for me to find scholarships until Mrs. Smith provided me the all scholarship, because whenever I was looking into any scholarship, most of the scholarship, they require like to be a resident or at least to have a DACA um, being a DACA holder. In my case, since I'm undocumented, I wasn't able to provide any proof of that. So I was just like kind of disappointed. Well, I was that was like little discouraged because how am I gonna pay? I said, how am I gonna pay my financial, well, my school if if there is no financial support. And yeah, but I'm glad I found the our scholarship because that has helped me like really a lot. Before that, I used to work like two jobs to pay my studies, but not anymore because I still work hard. But then that has actually helped me a lot.
Thank you, Andres. And I did see in the chat that not everyone might be familiar with the MISFA. As Andres alluded to and as William stated before, it is important to note that the FAFSA does require a status of U.S. citizen or permanent resident, or a smaller number of citizenship statuses like asylee and things like that. The Maryland State Financial Aid application for the state of Maryland does allow students that don't have one of those statuses to fill out a financial aid application and still satisfy that financial aid application requirement for receiving the state grant and other grants or scholarships like that. We will go ahead and move on to our next slide. If you do have any questions for our audience, feel free to put those in the chat. We're going to be moving on after our next slide to a point where you all can come off mute or go into the chat and ask questions or make reflections yourself. But we will move on to our next slide. And I believe, Elizabeth, you are up for this one.
Okay, don't assume everyone can find opportunities without guidance. Sorry, I can't see the rest of it. Without guidance and connections. A lot of scholarships, like we've said earlier, require students to have a social security number or something that can prove either their legal status or their financial, that they need financial aid. So personally from my experience in high school, I mean, I was a senior, and seniors have a lot to do. We're searching for colleges, we're searching for scholarships also. So I didn't really have the resources to find the scholarship because the scholarships I kept finding required me to either prove I needed financial aid or I needed legal status. So don't assume everyone can find scholarship because there are sources that we can find them from. Not all the scholarships that these engines provide we don't qualify for all of them, essentially. So
Definitely, thank you for that. And our next don't is a little bit related to that. And Andres, I think you're taking that one.
Yes, I believe a good way to support undocumented students is to advertise financial, career, and other opportunities that are not only for U.S. citizens and residents, but for DACA, undocumented, and other students, because I believe there are other students as well. So I think that will be like a very very encouragement. It would be like encouragement for all the students because for example, in my experience, whenever I was in high school, there was like as William said, there was like a FAFSA night, but unfortunately, I was uneligible to do the FAFSA since I'm undocumented. And then I believe if a college will find a way, or other people will find a way to advertise those resources like this state financial, Maryland state financial aid, that would be great.
Awesome, thanks, Andres. And William, I think you're wrapping us up.
Yeah. Also, another don't force a student to disclose their status, and definitely don't expect a student to do it in a public setting. A lot of people that are undocumented might not feel comfortable with letting everyone know, so they might just want to do it with the people they feel comfortable with. For example, it could be a teacher, a guidance counselor, or like some college people who are in the admissions office. This takes me back to personal experience, because when I was a senior in high school, I didn't really want to I had questions about financial aid and stuff, but you know, it was kind of hard for me because I didn't feel comfortable with letting everyone know, especially in like in a whole class environment. So what I would do is I would normally talk to some of my teachers that I felt comfortable with, like a one-on-one session, and ask them for help and guidance, and you know, and then they will guide me and let me know what was going on and stuff. But yeah.
Yeah, and thank you so much for sharing that, William. I think that thing, what you just shared, forces us to reconcile as staff and faculty. How do we create the welcoming environment where we may not exactly know who has what status, and how do we, to Elizabeth's point, steer folks to the appropriate careers that they will ultimately be eligible for based on certifications that they'll need to take without forcing anyone to disclose. And that's not an easy answer, but that's definitely one that we as the staff at Prince George's Community College definitely need to figure out, not only individually in our respective units, but also together. So speaking of together, this is the part of our presentation where we definitely want that togetherness to come alive. So we have 3 students here who have volunteered their time. We have numerous folks in the chat that have wealths of knowledge on their own. So we pose these 3 questions, and we invite staff to either come off mute or share in the chat for anything they have to offer for any of these 3 questions. So first of all, what further questions do you have about supporting undocumented students? And we invite you to ask any of those questions, either to staff, to the audience, or to our 3 students. What thoughts, feelings, and reactions does this presentation evoke for you? And what is an action you can commit to as a result of this presentation? So I will go ahead and put myself on mute right now. I invite you as audience members to come off mute yourself, or if you have any questions, go ahead and type them in the chat, and Dr. Smith and I will go ahead and moderate that.
Hi, this is Crystal Smith, Director of Advising Career and Transfer. Thank you to all of the presenters. Thank you to the students. I just wanted to let the students know, because you mentioned earlier having options for transfer schools in particular, as well as career opportunities that specifically are targeted towards DACA and undocumented students. And so I sent a message to my staff, and so you will see that coming. We are going to have especially in this world, we're going to have a virtual career opportunity that's going to be targeted towards DACA and undocumented students. And we're going to have a specific transfer opportunity where 4-year schools that do offer scholarships and that are safe spaces and welcoming spaces, you will be able to find those. So thank you for that recommendation. You all did a great job.
Thank you very much, Crystal. And I, as a staff member myself, but I'm sure I speak for a whole bunch of us on this call from the college community when I say that we are excited for that to happen. And we, as staff and faculty, definitely want to get our students all that information and get them plugged into those great opportunities. So thank you so much for that. And I'm excited to see what comes out of it.
I want to chime in with that,
question
Matt.
in the yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, I want to chime in with what Crystal Smith said, and thank you, Crystal, for your feedback. And actually, when Matt and I were thinking about this presentation, not to mention the sensitivity of this presentation, we kept going back and forth. And one of the takeaways that we wanted to make sure that happened in this presentation is what next. In the chat, I saw transparency, I saw confidentiality, I saw really key words that really resonate with DACA, Dreamer, and undocumented students. And so I'm hoping that we definitely could move into an environment where students do feel definitely welcome, definitely at Prince George's Community College, by providing the resources for the undocumented DACA and Dreamer population, because at times we kind of shy away from those really sensitive kind of conversations, and we feel that maybe we're not being as transparent enough, and we're not at times, but having programs that really tailored to DACA, Dreamer, and Undocumented is really important to create that transparency that we really need to do in the environment. And thank you for that comment, because we really wanted to move to the next step in providing resources. And I think it answers to one of the questions in the chat where it says, what resources do we offer currently at Prince George's Community College for this student population? As far as I know, MISFA is the only one, and then the OWL scholarship. They are the two resources that really tailor to this particular student population. I'm hoping that out of this we get to expand those resources. So thank you for that.
Thanks, Dr. Smith. Real quickly, before we go to another question, I do want to actually bring back up that question that Dr. Smith mentioned that was brought up by Mirna in the chat. What resources does the college have to support undocumented students? William or Elizabeth or Andres, I definitely want to invite you the opportunity to come up, mute yourselves, and share any resources that you have found especially useful. And I would also invite any one of our numerous college staff that may have some of that information to put that in the chat, or when our students are done, come up yourself. So Grace, Elizabeth, William, anything you all want to share about the types of resources that you all find most useful?
Yes, I can definitely say one of the resources that I've been lucky enough to find from my high school transition was the duality degree scholarship. That didn't require me to provide anything that I couldn't provide, and I was able to qualify for the scholarship and get some money off my tuition. So that has been great. But then I do know, like, this is one of the issues that we mentioned. Not a lot of people had access or knew about the duality degree program. I was lucky enough to find out about it because I was enrolled in the dual enrollment program at my school. So I was able to learn about it. But like I said, not everybody knows about it. So yeah.
I can take the next question on the chat. Thank you. I think it was Joe who mentioned, does the college have a website for students to go to? Currently, we do not. We do not have something like this. But again, as I previously mentioned, I look forward to growing the resources for DACA, Dreamer, and undocumented students. I do know that some of our neighboring community colleges do have a designated DACA Undocumented Dreamer website with resources, particularly posted on their site. So we can definitely look into examples of best practices. But thank you so much for that great idea to have some type of visual, transparent presence out there for the students.
And either William or Andres, it seems like one of you may have been trying to get in there. So I definitely want to allow you all to speak if you had anything.
So when I was a senior in high school, like I mentioned earlier, I knew there was FAFSA night, but I never knew there was MISFA, which helped undocumented students, which in my case, I was one of those people. So I was very lucky to find this program in high school called First Generation College Program. And once I joined First Generation College Program, I talked to the director and I told him about my situation, and he was the one who actually presented me with, the MISFA. And thanks to the MISFA, it actually covered somewhat of my tuition as well with the AWA scholarship. So I'm very thankful for those two sources, because like that, I don't have to pay out of pocket. So I'm very grateful for having those two types of financial aid.
Well, in my experience, as I mentioned before, one resource that I found very useful for me throughout my way through college It's the all scholarship. The Mrs. Smith provided me. Well, she provided me that source, right? And then, but some students, well, non-students yet, like people who are trying to attend to college, they might not know about the source. So it would be a great idea if that can be like advertised like more often or frequently, I would say.
Yeah, this is Dennis Huffman. I have a question about the word fear and how we can try to make sure that it's not scary to approach our front desk and not scary to come into a college space for the first time. I know sometimes the conversation at a front counter where you're being signed in, there are other people around, that's a difficult conversation sometimes. And I would love to hear from you guys about what would a truly welcoming, safe space look like? Would it be a web page so that you definitely not in somebody's strange space, or is there a way that we can change our front door, our front counter experience so that it feels safe to everyone?
And this is, oh, go ahead.
Is that Elizabeth? Or
Oh,
somebody else?
I'm still getting my thoughts together, but I think someone
Okay.
else was gonna say something.
No, go ahead, Elizabeth. That we definitely want to hear from you. And Dennis, that is a great question. I know I brought that comment in earlier, and but definitely, what would that look like for all of you, Elizabeth, Andres, and William? And I promise that if you need help, we're right here for you. No worries, okay?
Yep. So I definitely think a good start towards that would be like a section on the website, because everyone has access to that. But another thing would be like a program. I know. Okay, so I know it's asking for a lot, but the thing about it is, like, especially right now, the political climate creates this fear around disclosing your status. So like like some of us here are like, we know, like, okay, like you probably want to disclose your status when you feel comfortable, of course, to let them know, to give you the advice that you need. But not everybody is that informed, so that fear. So a program will be good. So if it's signposted, a program is like kind of like signposting. It's like, this is your safe space, you can tell us what, like, your status, so we can let you know the opportunities that are available to you. So yeah.
Thank you, Elizabeth. A program. Okay, thank you. Andres or William?
I would say like, and like, I don't know if it's considered a program, but when having FAFSA night, I feel like it would also be very useful to advocate for MISFA night, because when you think about it, not everyone's eligible for FAFSA, and the process of the FAFSA and the MISFA are two separate things. They're totally different and they're totally not the same steps. So I feel like we should advocate for a MISFA night every like every year for a weekend for students that are not eligible for FAFSA can also come here and maybe hope to get some financial aid instead of fearing to pay off their tuition or not even attending college because they won't be able to have money to pay for their own.
Thank you, William. So having a night particularly for DACA, Dreamer, and undocumented students would tailor to your needs, right? Did I get that right, William?
Yes.
Okay. And Andres, were you gonna say something, Andres?
Yes, I was actually going to support the thought William had. I think MISFA night would be, well, having the opportunity to have that advertised, that would be a great idea. As he said, it will encourage his students to apply for it, and then take down the fear for paying for tuition. I'm sorry, for paying tuition, and then yeah, I think that fear will come down, because that's what we're I guess most scared, like financially.
All right. Thank you, Andres. Thank you so much.
And then watching our time, I do want to make sure we wrap up in the next couple minutes. But before we move to our very last slide, just with some resources for you all, does anyone want to either in the chat or come off mute and look at that rightmost question to think about an action that you want to commit to as a result of this presentation, or something that you are looking to do based on the information that you learned? Anyone want to offer that?
Hi guys, this is Kim from OSEL. I kind of like Ms. Shirley Page's idea in terms of forming a committee at the college that identifies different things, programs, resources that we can offer our students. And also, I'm possibly thinking of event ideas to piggyback on what Andres said, DACA night strictly for what I like to call our international students. That's what we used to call them when I was worked at the Office of Admissions in Bowie State. Just to help them get acclimated and help them transition to their future educational or career endeavors and things of that nature. So I think that we should do that.
All right, thank you so much for that. Like I said, with 3 minutes until 4 o'clock, we are going to just move on to our very next slide so we can make sure we get you all some resources. Elizabeth, Andres, and William, Joe
Sorry,
posted
Matt,
a great, oh, go ahead.
Yeah,
go ahead.
sorry, Matt. Courtney had her hand raised. Is it possible to give her a few seconds? Or
Of
are we good?
of course.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Courtney?
Hey, yes, I just wanted to say that it got me slightly teary-eyed when I was when one of the students mentioned about the inclusiveness, and then it showed up in the PowerPoint that I will make a commitment to be super intentional and deliberate when my staff, who are the coast coordinators and recruiters, are going out supporting our high schools in the county to and and I charge that to our student financial aid office, who supports us as well in those efforts, to make sure that we're framing it as a financial aid night, or we can maybe come up with something super fancy, but to make sure that we are sharing that. Oh my gosh, of course he's doing that. I'm sorry. Making sure that we're inclusive of what can be presented, in addition to the FAFSA, looking at the MIFSA and those things. I know that right now a lot of those presentations are not tailored to that, to even include those other forms of financial aid. So I make an intentional conversation about that with my PGCPS counterparts and those on campus alike, to make sure that we, even if it's something that has to be separate or it can be inclusive of those nights, I definitely want to make that charge to action.
Thank you, Courtney. Thank you so much. And absolutely, you nailed it, as well as Ms. Shirley Silva Page in the comments, where this was the hope when Matt and I were talking about this presentation, was that really begin to really unite in resources with Courtney in the front door experience, with LCC in Laurel, which is a populated Latino population, with UTC, also on highly populated immigrant population, and other resources that have been mentioned already, such as websites, such as events and nights. But also just that conversation. I don't want to lose sight of what Dennis Hoffman said, that front door experience, when that student is really coming and saying, hey, I need to talk to you. Can we step into your office? And then and really be able to have a safe place to disclose and say, I really don't have all those documents that you want, and that is because of X, Y, and Z. So thank you so much. I cannot, this has also touched me in so many ways. With that, Matt, back to you.
I was just gonna ask you if there was anyone else with the hand raised, but we'll move into our very last slide. This is mostly gonna be some takeaways for when we can send out this presentation. United We Dream, I'll focus just on the left side for now, just because of time. United We Dream is a national organization. They have a toolkit for educators that is inclusive of K-12 educators and also higher education faculty and staff. So that is a fantastic resource. And again, once we are able to share this presentation, we'll make sure to share that link, along with a number of different links, some that are more informational, some that are more resource driven. We had Andres and William also mentioned the OWL scholarship. Currently, students are applying, or we are finding out if students are eligible for that program through a scholarship information card that is posted on the PGCC webpage. But again, as we will send out some of these resources on the left, and then also some of our sort of footnotes and resources on the right, we will definitely commit to getting this presentation to all of you who were able to share in our time with us today. Other than that, Dr. Smith's email is on there. My email is on there. I don't think I forgot to introduce myself at the beginning. Matt Kuzo with the Special Scholarship Program, Dr. Rosa Smith, Program Director for Student Services, and our 3 fantastic student volunteers. Thank you to everyone for being a part of our session today. We hope this was informative for you. And again, huge props to Andres and Elizabeth and William for sharing your stories. So thank you everyone so much, and happy CPD&E Day.
Thank you so much, everybody, for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you, students. You guys were amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everyone.
Thanks.
This was
Great
awesome.
information.
Thank you so much. This
You're
was
welcome.
super
You're
awesome.
welcome. Have a great day. Have a great day.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Smith. Thank you,
You're
ma'am.
welcome, Mary. Have a great day, Mary. Thanks for coming.
De
Thank
nada.
you.